I will hold Long Khan. I will knock them down here, even to bring here 2 divisions or 3 divisions.
The city which has withstood 3 major communist assaults during the past week. A city which is poised, waiting for the next attack by communist forces which outnumber the city's defenders. Xuan Loc today is above all a symbol of South Vietnam's will to resist, a symbol of North Vietnam's determination to end the war this year, perhaps this month. People in Saigon feel that if Xuan Loc falls, the war is over.
Brigadier General Lê Minh Đảo told the assembled newsmen that he'd beaten back 6 major attacks in 5 days. I don't care how many divisions the other side sends against me, he told us. I will knock them down.
I think the enemies, they think they can swallow down very easy. But now I can say with you, they hit to the rock. They hit to the rock. And you know, we are broken their heads already.
What is the morale of your men here, General?
I can say with you, they fight 5 days, and now today they still launch the attack and push enemies away, and you go. With the face of my son, you're always smiling and always in good shape, good condition. You will see.
Is this battle crucial, do you think, to the future of Saigon?
First, if we hold here, I think we can give a good confidence for the people to Saigon. So we will try very hard. We will try to do our best to keep here. This is the first wave of attack. Enemies can use more regiment, more fresh regiment to launch some next attack again. But no problem. No problem.
My guest today is the daughter of a man who, though I never met him, had a profound impact on my life. When I was still in high school, self-educating myself about the history of Vietnam, I discovered a battlefield interview with a South Vietnamese general named Lê Minh Đảo. His bravery in the face of overwhelming odds was very inspiring to me, and it made me want to learn more about the South Vietnamese history and their perspective on the war. I looked up to this man as a teenager, and I hoped I would even get to meet him someday, but unfortunately that didn't happen when he passed away in 2020. But I'm very thankful that today his loving daughter wrote a book about him, which I have right here, called Children of Hope. And this book gives us a little insight into the middle part of Mr. Lê Minh Đảo life, mostly focusing on his time right at the end of the life of the Republic of Vietnam, going up through the 1990s. And it covers a lot of his time in the re-education camps, which we'll come to be very familiar with very soon. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. This is Hang Mi Lee.
Well,
is that right?
Well, Vietnamese people call me Hang Mi, and last name is Lê. So usually, you know, if I would introduce myself, I would say Hang Mi, you know, but the way you pronounce is pretty close.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for taking your time and have some interest in the book and read about it. And I hope you enjoy it, because what I share in that book, it's nothing but the truth.
Well, in your own words, could you summarize your father's life accomplishments in about 2 minutes if you had to? And then we'll go into more of the details.
Well, my father was born in an average family, and his dad died at a very early age, and his mom took care of 10 children. Then his mom sent him, you know, him and his brother Lê Hang Minh and 2 other brothers to military. And my father has the privilege to come to America, and also his brother Lê Hang Minh. I mean, I'm going to show you the pictures later. So to come to America to have their training there. So my father is trained, you know, I know he went to West Point, I guess, to check it out, but he's actually went to Fort Benning, graduated there. His brother also went to America to have their military training. And after that, he joined the military, the South Vietnam Republic of, actually it's Republic of South Vietnam. And his division was Arvin. His brother, Lê Hang Minh, he was a Marine, and he was in the special force. So he was a tough guy. His younger brother was a tough guy. And every time when the communists hear his brother's platoons come in or his brother come in, they pretty much nervous and afraid because
Interesting.
yes, you should read more about him too,
I'd love to. I don't know much about his brother.
Yes.
What are some positive qualities about the Republic of Vietnam that your father told you about that might have inspired him to become a military officer and fight so hard for his country?
Well, I mean, it's been a while since I remember all the conversation I had with my dad, but I do remember what he told me, and I hope it fit in the questions that you asking. So he would share about, the South Vietnamese people, the military men, they have a lot of love for their country, just like my dad. He loved his country. He said, that's my motherland. I love my parents the most, and then my country. And also their kind heart, they're hardworking. They would fight for freedom on an empty stomach. That's how they are.
Yeah,
So,
and in a lot of cases they did near the end of the war, as we know.
Yeah.
When the American money started to dry up, there were many cases of pay decreases and not being able to get food to certain people. So it really was a reality that played out that way. Did your father ever talk about the specific thing that might have made him want to join? Was there a specific event before the war or during the war
Yes.
that happened that was like, all right, I hate these communists?
yes, he did. This is when he was younger, back in the 60s. I don't know if you heard of Viet Minh. Viet Minh is it's also Viet Cong. It's also communist. That's how communists started.
Yeah, they're the precursors to the Viet Cong.
Yes. So he remembered there was and I wrote in the book that there was a family, a Canadian family. They are evangelists. They Christian. They would come to Vietnam to teach Christianity. Well, he remembered the Viet Minh took the husband, the wife, and another gentleman, and the two children, and trying to execute them right in front of all the civilians.
Wow.
And he was in his maybe 14, 13, something like that, him and his brother. So everyone was scared. They ran inside the house. But one of the Viet Minh leaders saying, don't do that in front of, the civilian, because everyone's scared now. People were screaming. They took that family to another area. So my dad followed them and witnessed the execution. And the sad part is he always remembered this little girl, and he always described her with her little blonde hair and her big eyes and the glasses, and how she hides behind her mom. It would just. And another incident is that when he saw the Viet Minh execute people alive, well, pretty much alive, like they cut the stomach open and they stuff with husk, the rice husk, and they throw these people in the river or the lake, and so it sink down.
And was this at the time of the French still?
Yes.
Okay.
And that made him hated the communists so much. And that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to join him and his brother. They witnessed horrific events.
There were at that time there were many different opinions. There were even some people back then who they didn't like what the Viet Minh were doing at all, but they also didn't really like the French being there. Where did your father stand on the French question?
Well, he didn't talk to me about the French, and he didn't mention anything about that, but he just telling me stories what he remembers. So I don't want to say anything that I didn't hear. I don't want to comment anything, that I didn't know, but I know that we have a lot of French influence in us. My grandmom, my mom's side, and she is somewhat French Chinese. And
oh wow.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, she's beautiful, and even after the war's over, she went back and lived in France. I'm honestly don't know too much about my family background. That sounds really bad, but I know who they are. I know who my grandparents, ancestors are, but I don't really go in deep into their background.
Well, it's hard to keep up with, especially if you're a family of 10 how many is your parents' generation and then your
Well, we are a family of 9.
Yeah.
There's only 9 of us. My
Okay.
dad's parents have 10. I just want to make it clear, there's only 9 of us, my dad and my mom. My mom is Mrs. Tran, Zhang Thi Bích Linh. And my dad, they have 9 kids, 2 boys and 7 girls.
Okay. And how many of them are still around?
My oldest brother passed away in 2015.
Yes,
So,
that was written in your book.
Yeah, and there's only 8 of us left. And my youngest brother is Steve Lee. His Vietnamese name is Minh Dao. He's still alive. He's still living in Virginia.
Okay.
And most of us, I mean, I'm here, but most of my family live in Virginia.
Probably the most well-known thing about Lê Minh Đảo to people who casually study the war is probably the Battle of Xuan Loc, where he very famously commanded the ARVN 18th Division in defense of a place that was really thought by the general public that it was just going to fall real quick and it was going to be an easy victory for the communists, but it ended up being a 13-day slog for them. He resiliently held out. That's pretty well known to the general public who study the Vietnam War. But are there other aspects of his military career that you think people should pay attention to before that is notable in his life?
I know that he mentioned several battles, and one of them was An Dien, Sung Lop An Dien, and I can't remember, there was another name because he wanted to name all his children under the battles. It's funny, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how I named my grandson after his last battle. Adrian Sung Lop is his grandson. I used that name for his last battle.
That's a unique name too. Not very many Vietnamese people have that name.
One of his grandson, my dad's grandson, Lê Minh An Dien, that was one of the battle my dad fought. Also, well, that nephew, he passed away. That's my oldest brother's son. He also passed away. So, I mean, it's kind of sad to mention, but yeah, that's all I know or remember of what my dad told me.
Your book covers a whole lot about his time in the concentration camps. And I really want to encourage people, if you want to learn about these supposedly re-education camps, you check out, again, The Children of Hope. It's available on Amazon and
Barnes and Noble.
By this point.
But Barnes and Nobles, and now I saw it on Walmart and Mad Book, something like that too.
Yes. Well, in the book, you actually have included some of his music he made in the camp. He wrote a few songs down and kept the lyrics to some of these songs. But I want to know, is there anywhere online where people can find his music? Did he ever get around to getting this published in a digital or even physical format, such as a CD or a cassette, when he got out of the camps and moved to the United States?
The one that he wrote in prison, the one that's in my book, that was because when he first got there and he has to try to comfort himself or trying to get through this tough time. So he wrote that, but he also wrote a song called Nhớ Mẹ, and that's already published, him and another gentleman in the prison with him. Actually, I have that. It's this song, Nhớ Mẹ, and I mean all the Vietnamese people know, and it was him and another gentleman, Do Dong Huê. So that's my dad's. I have his songs. And then there are 2 other songs. One of them, it's already out, and he wrote about the time that he was in prison, and he thought about the children, and many other prisoners thought about the children. So those are the 2 songs I know, but the one that I have in my book, it was never published, because when I was recording these with him, and he's hoping one day it will get published.
Skipping forward a little bit in the book, your father had mentioned that, and I found this really interesting, he was consulted for military advice by the communists during the Cambodian conflict with Vietnam. Even though your father gave very specific information, as you said in the book, about the details of how he defeated various North Vietnamese units. What was his opinion on that conflict? Did he have a thought on it, or was he just like, it's communists killing communists, I don't care?
Yeah, that's what he says pretty much. It's communists killing communists. And the worst part, he said, he mentioned, I was laughing. I still remember, I have the recording. We actually, if I listen to that, I still laugh, because he's saying after, they asked me for my opinion, and they asked another general, Trần Bá Yi, I mentioned in there, for, our opinions, and they still making stupid move, pretty much pointing the gun back at the prison, because they are afraid if that war did break out, then they are afraid the prisoner will, lose control and start escaping. So what they did is they, on top of this mountain, they point their gun down towards all the, prison camps. And if anyone escape, they're gonna shoot them. They're not gonna be loyal to you.
Did he have any thoughts about whether he was more happy to be in Vietnam versus being over in the Cambodian prisons, or did he have any thoughts about what was going on with the killing fields in Cambodia? Has he ever talked about that?
No, he didn't talk to me, but I brought that up when he was talking about, during that war, the Khmer Rouge, the Pol Pot,
Yeah.
I say, Dad, have you watched the movie The Killing Fields? And he say, I did. But then he never really go deep into it, because he's saying that he did say something. He told me, Lê Dung, I don't know if you need to look him up. He is like second command or third command of Ho Chi Minh.
Yeah.
He said that Pol Pot, okay, the leader, Pol Pot, this man, he killed people, and he showed on TV. The killing fields, the guy. You've seen like how many people he executed, right? Yeah. Daylight, skulls and skeletons. Lê Dung do the same thing, but in silence. Okay. Killing the Vietnamese, the South Vietnamese people, and the prisoners of war, right, in silence.
Right.
So it's the same evil, but doing different type of techniques.
It's the same evil with a different mask that's like fake happy face.
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. You go into incredible detail how brutal the situation was, about how these people were starving, they weren't given enough medical care.
Yes.
This whole idea that it was something to reteach you stuff to make you good in this new communist society. I don't know if anyone really learned anything except for more hatred for their oppressors. It seemed like an incredibly ineffective way to get people to do what you want. It seems like it was just torture and starvation and humiliation.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's not just from my dad. If you really ask many of the American POW, they will tell you the same story. It's cruel, it's brutal, it's barbaric.
Do you think some of their mistreatment, though, might have actually came from the fact that they couldn't even feed their own people very well? So it's kind of natural that their poor prisoners were going to get harsh treatment?
Well, what my dad mentioned to me was that their military, their little people, I wouldn't say little people, I'd say most of their military men or soldiers are just only 14, 15 years old. What do they know? They teenager. They being brainwashed. They being trained to hate, kill. Okay. And they were very poor. So they don't know any other ways but to treat people with inhumanely, barbaric, I mean, I don't know where these people come from. Honestly, I don't know what they were being fed, but it's just so cruel. It's very sad.
Very sad indeed.